Rolling.
Hey, 46.1. We have a guest star this week. This is Frida. My wife's out of town, so if we tape this show from like 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. because otherwise getting down the 405 is just impossible. And instead of leaving the dog home alone half the night, I thought we'd just bring her in. Frida is a savage killer. She's part Maltese, but mostly I think West Highland Terrier. And terriers were bred to be savage rat killers. And so, like, she's got a really skinny muzzle. You can see muzzle not very big at all. And that is long and skinny, and that's so she can poke her nose into wood piles and down rat holes and get rats and then grab them and then shake them and break their neck. My wife has trained her to bring the newspaper in, and she brings it in every morning, but first she kills it. She grabs it and then she shakes it, make sure it's dead, and then brings it in. So first they were bred to be small and psycho, so they could get at rats. And then somebody noticed when they were making them small that they were adorable, so then they were like, all right, we should breed them to make them West Highland, terriers to be extra adorable, but they didn't breed out the psychoness. So
We should note that she's bilingual, right?
yeah, she grew up in the northern San Fernando Valley with a Hispanic family, a Latino family, and through a series of circumstances ended up with us, and she's still very excited to hear ranchero music or the Spanish language.
Speak in Spanish.
Okay. Frida, ¿cómo estás? Estás muy bonita, ¿verdad, Frida? Estás hermosa. Ese perro está muy hermoso. Sí, claro que sí, ¿verdad, Frida?
Okay.
Her ears, please.
All right. Okay. So there you go. Guess now we'll move on to our first official subject. Pirates.
Oh, are we talking about? All right.
Before you carry on, I'm pointing the camera up. I'm gonna make a quick sound adjustment. I mean, it's good, but we just need to do You can still talk.
Right behind you. Where's the sculpture?
Well,
Right.
right know. That's why I came this way.
Good. I'm gonna just block this off.
Okay. Oh, may I use this? Put it on the floor. There we go. That's better.
We could have had this all along if it works. It's easier than that other thing.
Look, the veins starting to fill up slowly.
Yeah, it's just from hanging your arm.
Okay.
Still rolling.
Oh, have we been rolling this whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
All right. So, let me begin by saying today, this week, something truly important happened. The Disney company revealed the new...
Sorry, is it possible to turn one of those off? It's so noisy.
That's the loud one.
Should we switch them? So this is so this one's here. This arm needs to be heated up, otherwise the veins don't surface as well.
I don't need veins today. We can get veins next week.
Okay, so all right, we'll turn it off for a while.
No, that doesn't turn it off. You use the dial.
All right, okay.
All right. So this week, the Disney company did something I'm very upset about. They have a ride that most of you will have heard of called the Pirates of the Caribbean. And the ride at a certain point has your boat go by an auction where the pirates have taken all the women of the town and they're auctioning them off to become brides. It's still the Disney company, so they're auctioning off the women, but they're auctioning them off to marry them. And it was Disney's polite way of saying that these pirates
We're sex traffickers.
You always interrupt me.
Sorry.
Okay. It's Disney's polite way of saying that these pirates are not just thieves, but they are also going to abuse the women. They're going to ravish the women because they're pirates. And up until this year, that was okay. People understood that they are pirates and pirates do bad things. Well, the Disney company decided that that set a bad example for young women. So they replaced the pirate, the woman,
The wenches.
The wenches, thank you. Well, they weren't quite wenches. They were
training. Sorry.
They were townspeople. They were women of the town that just happened to be citizens of the town. But there was one woman in it whose name was the Redhead. And she actually was sort of getting into it. She's sort of probably a courtesan of some type. And she was the star of the whole ride because she becomes sort of the prime prize in the pirate wench auction. She really was a wench. So the point is, Disney decided that they need to raise. Somehow they decided they're going to raise our kids. And the way they're going to raise our little girls is by teaching them that in the 18th century, pirates never absconded with women. And the new redhead, she's not even called the redhead anymore because that's sexist. The new woman is called Red, and she's actually the queen of the pirates. So they got rid of all the town's women that were being auctioned off.
Who's being auctioned off now? Anybody?
No. What they're auctioning off now is stolen antiques, stolen objects, and the person running the auction is the queen of the pirates, pirate woman, Red. And she's actually the head of the pirates now. And she's covered in guns and sabers, and she's wearing masculine clothing, and whereas the first redhead actually looked a little bit like a 40s film star, this one has a man's jaw, kind of a heavy nose, and small eyes. So she actually looks more masculine. I mean, it's not even bigotry on my part to say that. Everybody that looks at her says, well, what is this? She looks like a very masculine woman. And when I posted an article about her on Facebook, everyone said, well, what is this now? Instead of Pirates of the Caribbean, it's going to be Lesbians of the Caribbean? Now, I didn't say that because, as we all know, lesbians can look anyway. But this particular woman looks masculine. And I just think that it's one more way that the Democrats, because it comes down to the Democrats trying to drive everybody nuts. And basically lying to our kids about what women used to be like. Because the average woman in the 18th century was not a pirate. There were one or two female pirates, everybody reminds me. But then I always have to say, no, they were the exception. Most pirates were not female. And then I have to say, look, in the Soviet Union, they had a saying. And the saying is, the future is already known. It's the past that keeps changing. And so what's really happening is the Disney Corporation, like all socialists, are trying to change history. It's the same with removing the Confederate statues. Actually, this month, they removed a statue of a Native American in San Francisco because they said it was a degradation of the Native Americans. And so first the Confederate statues, then Columbus, then Native Americans statues, and also the ride in Disneyland is a statue too. It's a statue of a pirate lady, of a lady in the era of the pirates. But the Disney Corporation wants to convince us that women were always feminists. That were never, not only should women grow up to be feminists now, but even in the 18th century, women were feminists. And I just think that's really, it's sick. It's sick and it's disgusting, and I blame it on the Democrats having taken over the Disney Corporation, which they did. The Disney Corporation used to be Republican because Walt was Republican, and now it's run by the Democrats.
Well, the Disney Corporation used to have the Haunted Mansion. And so what, did the Disney Corporation want people to believe that ghosts are real?
Well, okay, that's the second argument people say. People say, well, why do you care about the historical accuracy of a ride? It is just a ride after all. Well, my point is this. When you're trying to show people something about history, then you're showing them something about history. You don't have to show them history and then say, but we're going to change it so that it's history, but you should grow up to be a feminist. Because women have always been strong warriors. Because now I'm arguing on Facebook, all the Democrats are saying, well, we want our daughters to be strong warriors. And I keep saying, well, first of all, you can have your daughter be a strong warrior if that's what you need, but you can still have a ride that depicted accurately what was happening in history. You don't have to change the ride so that your daughter will be a strong warrior. And the point is that anytime you're changing history, there should be a reason. Like, for example,
You know what? Sorry, but you know what Disney likes?
you can interrupt me now.
Okay. You know what Disney likes? Profits.
No, it has nothing to do with money. They'll make exactly the same amount of money if they just leave it the way it is. There's no study that was performed that said, you know what? If you get rid of the girly girls that are being auctioned off to be brides and replace them with a strong warrior woman, you'll make much more money. They don't give a shit. Because the Disney Corporation was taken over by Democrats. Obama actually met with the executives of the Disney Corporation, and they had a secret meeting. Nobody even knows what it was about.
When was this?
This was in 2015 or 16. And it turns out that all along, there have been books and books and studies. The Disney Corporation is promoting a left-wing agenda. I mean, for example, the last 3 movies that they made showed the female heroines in the movies were all women that didn't need men. All the last 3
movies?
Frozen, and then there was one of a Scottish girl. I forget what she was called.
Maeve
or something like that. Yeah, but Frozen. Actually, people actually think that Frozen may be a lesbian. That they, and same with the one Brave. Brave, her name was Brave, I think. That's the name of the film. But anyway, the last three princesses haven't needed men. They, like in Walt's day, the princesses would end up with a prince, but now they don't. They either end up with another woman as quote unquote friends, or they don't have a prince. And it turns out a study was done, and I'm not embarrassed to say this, I'm not afraid, I'm not running for any office. A study was done to find which corporation was the gayest in America. And it turns out the gayest company in America, the company that has the most homosexuals in their executive offices, is Disney. It's about 50% gay. And what people are saying is that there is an agenda going on now. It's
I bet you the Grindr offices are pretty gay.
What's Grindr?
Grindr's gay Tinder.
Okay, fine, Rick. I'm saying when compared with Exxon or Apple, the Disney Corporation, it has the most homosexuals, but it doesn't just have the normal 3 to 10%, which a corporation generally has, which mirrors the population of the country. It has over 50%. And what they're doing is they're changing all the rides and all the films to promote a gay or feminist or left-wing agenda.
All right, but I'll widen my thing. Besides making money, Disney likes presenting unconditional acceptance.
Well, actually it doesn't, and I'll tell you why. My first question has always been this. Why hasn't there ever been a white Disney princess with a black Disney prince? They don't mix races, but they do have gay characters in all their films. Yeah, but they've had a series of gay characters they even had a gay character in the last film they did, the French, the one that took place in France or whatever. I think it was
Beauty and the Beast.
No, it was or Notre Dame or the Hunchback, or I don't know what it was. But
no, Beauty and the Beast, like the candelabra.
is that the one?
Or
Yeah, but they just did one where it's the French classic, the classic of French literature. Not Hunchback, but
Les Mis.
Something about there's a. Well, anyway, it was a Victor Hugo novel, I think, that they first did it as an animated film, then they did it as a live action film, and they said we're going to put a gay character.
That's
in this
Beauty
movie.
and the Beast.
That's Beauty and the Beast. No,
Yes,
it was one that took place in France, and there's in the 18th century.
Aladdin?
No, it was.
It's frickin' Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, fine. My point is that they are now including a gay character in every film. And most of the TV shows have gay characters in them. And my argument is this. Regardless of how you feel about homosexuality, you may love it, you may hate it, you may want everyone in America to be gay, it's irrelevant. Why is a company that makes entertainment for children, why is this there? Why are they presenting this? Why are they getting involved in sexual orientation issues? It's supposed to be a simple entertainment company that makes films for children.
Here's a less insidious explanation. I always get a little annoyed when I go to Disneyland because I find the unconditional love presented by Disney annoying. As somebody who didn't experience that maybe growing up, we grew up in a very kind of bullied, a time when bullying was accepted, and where you would have mean gym teachers, and you were just supposed to suck it up. It was supposed to toughen you up. So there was less unconditional love. And then you go to Disneyland, and it's just chock full of unconditional love. We love you, everybody, regardless of who you are. It's like, what the hell? Don't do that. I didn't get that. Don't you be all unjudgmental and loving to everybody, frickin' Disneyland. If you're not, And I was like, it strikes me as kind of like it's not edgy enough, and it's. But I understand the whole. So I can see for a kid who may be coming to terms with his or her sexuality, and who's looking for love, unconditional love, maybe in some harsh family environment, in some harsh school environment. I can see that kid who's just at the very beginning of figuring him or herself out, turning to Disney and their love as a source of solace. And then as that person grows up and Disney hires a gazillion creative people, I would contend that Disney as a corporation is it may be the gayest corporation, but it's also more creative than frickin' Exxon or T-Mobile. So it attracts, I'd say that it may attract a bunch of gay people to work there because the gay people love the unconditional acceptance that is part of the Disney brand.
Well, actually, it goes even a step further. They've done interviews, and there's actually sort of a theory going around. I believe Disney executives offered this, or it's sort of like off the record, but they've sort of admitted that they think it's their duty to get people to accept homosexuality. That they want children, as they grow up, to be more accepting of homosexuality because, and in doing this, they feel they're doing a good thing in helping society become more tolerant.
Oh, yeah, and
Okay.
a lot of people would be okay with that agenda. You're not.
Well, my point is this. I don't think that they should have any opinion on the subject. I don't think it's their role to make people more accepting of anything. It's, in other words, it's, as I said earlier, why aren't they making people more accepting of mixed race couples, like black princesses and white princesses?
Well, hold
Why
on.
is it that they've chosen a sexual behavior that they want children to grow up to be more accepting of?
But Lance, is it a privately owned company, so they can do whatever they want?
No, they're publicly owned. They're on the stock market.
Well,
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. They're public. It's a public company. It's corporations. Public corporations can do whatever they want.
You know,
They
that-
sound like a dictator.
well, but that's the worst argument that you can offer me. I've been encountering
So
that
wait-
from every Democrat.
But wait,
and,
hold
and
on.
they're saying, well, they can do whatever they want. I know they can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. They can burn Disneyland down if they want to. That's not an argument.
They're
My-
free
my-
to express their views.
Well, they're free to do whatever they want. But what I'm saying is,
But hold
it's
on,
not the-
because let me go back to one point you've made, which is you're saying they're trying to increase acceptance of a sexual behavior. Does that
Yeah.
mean that you
Right.
think that gayness is a choice?
I think that, as we discussed a year ago,
Yeah.
I think that if you give a 1-year-old to a couple to raise, and that couple's goal was to make the 1-year-old gay, with proper science, they could do it. If they read the right books on psychology, they studied up on it, they could make the child gay. Certainly. In fact, there's no doubt about it. And as I said,
There's plenty of doubt about it.
Well, yeah, because I said a year ago, and you forgot because facts mean nothing to you. There were whole societies that were gay. Ancient Greece, everybody was bisexual. So you can make a society
but-
any way you want.
Was ancient Greece like all right, so I know a little bit, I know almost nothing about history, but I know ancient Rome, like, dudes would like, especially like dudes in leadership positions, would like having little boy assistants, and they would not little boys, but like attractive young male assistants, and they would do this kind of weird humping between the thighs of the assistants, right?
Well, why do you say it's weird? Are you judgmental of homosexual behavior, Rick?
No, I'm saying it's weird because they had the actual action. It's like, it's weird the way Eskimos are said to kiss by rubbing noses.
Okay.
And it's weird
Okay,
when
Rick.
like a guy puts his wiener between the thighs of another guy. That's
Okay,
like just
Rick,
that's
Rick,
an
Rick,
unconventional.
Rick, before the Judeo-Christian era, all societies were bisexual. And what changed people into being predominantly heterosexual was the adoption of philosophies that chose to promote heterosexuality. That's why we live, or have up until recently lived, in a predominantly heterosexual society. You can make a society any way you want, Rick. And
Yeah, but people
apparently-
still bang and make babies.
Yeah, we had this exact same
I know,
argument.
but now it's a year later, so maybe we can make it better.
And I'm telling you that, yes, people still make babies. And that is not my argument. My argument is, why is it that the Disney Corporation feels that they need to orient our children?
Well, because 3 to 10% of the population is gay, and the Disney Corporation, having a large number of gay employees, wants to make American culture more welcoming of that 3 to 10%. Many of
Why don't they just make movies about what it's like to be a child and with nice moral lessons? Why are they influencing our children's reaction to different
tolerance
sexual
of
behaviors? Why don't they do movies about? Why don't they try to get us to tolerate adultery or polygamy?
Because basically what you're making the argument that gayness is a choice and that it's not a good choice. That's what you're saying right here.
No, I'm not. I'm actually saying that I don't want a company that makes entertainment for children to be making any influences. I don't want them to get kids to vote Republican. I don't want them to get kids to become Christian. It's just none of their business. And I think it's insidious that they're trying to choose which things our children are supposed to be tolerant of. And I don't want them to make our kids strong warrior pirate women either. What if our kids want to be chorus girls or singers or ballet dancers? Why take that off the pirate ride? The girl that
there aren't any frickin' ballet dancers in Pirates of the Caribbean.
No, but the women in the ride that were being auctioned off were very effeminate.
So
And what's wrong with that?
Just to be the devil's advocate here, then maybe you create that change by starting your own theme park.
Ooh,
And you
Lance
can have-
World.
And you can have, you can.
But you,
Okay, I mean, isn't that an option, Lance?
No, it isn't, Camille. But even if it was,
Because it's
you keep going back to the idea that it's their property. I realize they can do what they want with their theme park, but I also think that it is immoral for a company to take over an entertainment for children company and turn it into a
force for tolerance.
of anything. It's not a political.
Well, let's talk about what our different stances on this. Let's talk about what you did about this. A year ago,
Yes,
you tried to,
I started a petition.
and you tried to have that ride declared a historical, monument or something?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they couldn't change it.
Right.
But it turns out
That you can't have a hostile declaration. You can't go into somebody else's property and say that's a historical landmark. You can't change it.
But what did you do recently?
Well,
It's
recently
interesting.
I did something that is a little bit immoral. I'm not sure if it's immoral. I used to work at Disneyland, and because of that, I know where
Dog.
Would you?
Sorry.
You always step on my stories. All right, I got to repeat myself now for our millions of
I
viewers.
just don't want her eating like paint off the floor.
All right, so I used to work at Disneyland, and so I know where Walt's ghost is. And I went to where
The
Walt's
ghost of Walt Disney.
the ghost of Walt Disney lives in Disneyland, yes, or exists in Disneyland. And so I went to that place, and I actually conjured, which is sort of like kind of evil to do, but I said to Walt's ghost.
You said Walt. Did you summon him?
No, I conjured him in as best I could. And I said, listen, I tried a petition to save the pirate ride, to save the wenches on the pirate ride so that they could still be auctioned off to the pirates to become their wives. And it didn't work, and now they are making our children feminists by having a strong warrior woman there instead. And I said, can you at least curse people or summon magic of some kind to stop this? And we'll see what happens. It's the best I can do.
Is it ironic though that Disneyland is, because it is leftist or liberal, they're getting rid of the winches, and yet the people that work there probably are pumping up and glorifying Stormy Daniels. Do you find an irony there?
That's a leap.
Is it kind of Stormy Daniels? Wouldn't she be kind of winchy?
You're saying that she's a feminist hero even though she has sex for money.
Well, she's in the porn industry.
Yeah, all right. So,
Should be like a modern day
well,
witch.
all right. I think the argument you're making is that you take your heroes where you can find them in the fight against Trump. And also, Stormy Daniels was on 60 Minutes tonight. But I'm not sure that we need to talk about Stormy Daniels too much, in that almost nothing in the interview revealed anything that hasn't already been revealed. It was kind of a letdown. Her lawyer was kind of teasing that we might see pictures of Trump having sex, or at least of his junk. And there was none of that.
I would just like to say one more thing about Disneyland. 9 days out of the year, they have something at Disneyland called Gay Day. And I have actually gone.
Do they have it, or is it unofficial?
They pretend that it isn't, but they have gay Mickeys all over the park that day that you can buy. That just rainbow-colored Mickey Mouses that just happen to appear on those days. And I've actually gone to Disneyland with friends that I have that happen to be gay, and I've told them, do you think this is a good thing? Because on gay days, 30,000 homosexuals go to Disneyland. So if you show up at Disneyland on those 9 days,
It's going to be pretty gay.
You will be outnumbered. Yeah, I mean, there will be more gay people than straight people. There will be thousands and thousands, and there's more. The male gays go in the parking lot and have sexual
And
intercourse.
bang.
They go in the parking lot and have sex.
In cars.
Yeah. And
Like
this is not. There's no. I'm not making it up. It happens.
Okay, but
Now-
how much does it happen? I mean,
I don't know, but I know of 2 instances where it happened, where somebody saw it, that repeated it to me personally, and then I had other people say it. I haven't seen it. I've seen kissing and fondling. I haven't actually seen sex, but a friend of mine saw sex in the parking lot. And when I broach this with people, they get very angry with me. There was this woman who had a son that was gay. And she wrote to me on Facebook. She said, because I brought it up in a Disney chat room, and they got furious with me. And everybody else was bringing it up too. It wasn't just me. A whole bunch of other people wrote on this thread in the chat room, we're a little tired of these gay days. They kind of take the spirit of the park. They turn the park into a gay bar, which is not really appropriate. Even if you're gay, it's kind of odd. And this woman writes to me, she said, as the mother of a gay son, I would like to tell you to fuck off. And I thought to myself, well, of course you have a gay son. But I didn't say that. What I said was, statistically, think about it. If you have two men, the testosterone level pushes them towards easy sex, as opposed to a man or a woman or two lesbians, where the estrogen puts a kind of a halt to it.
In a nutshell, you're saying that
of course they're going to
guys
have
are-
sex in the parking lot. Why wouldn't they? But no one would believe me. They thought I was disparaging the great honor of the gay sect of our society, and I'm not. I'm just saying. So finally, I found a study by Johns Hopkins stating that, of course, gay men have the most sex of anybody, because you've got two testosterones, not just one. So of course they're going to have sex in the parking lot. And my point is, it is inappropriate for a theme park to have any organization. You're not allowed to have a Republican meeting there. You're not allowed to have a Christian meeting, a Jewish meeting, a Democrat meeting.
Wait.
Why do you have a gay day at Disneyland? It's not
it's
appropriate.
not official.
Well, but it is official because they put products out that are rainbow for the gays to buy.
So it's
So
semi-official.
No, they encourage it. They have workshops where they go to gay communities and show them which hotels to get and packages.
So what about just putting golf carts, security guards in golf carts cruising the parking lot saying, cut it out?
Well, how about this? How about not encouraging any sexual, see, my argument is this: why not have a wife swapping day, swingers day, just days for different sexual behaviors?
Minnie Mouse having a little active
Well,
bracelet.
A lot of gay people like Disney.
Yeah,
I don't
and a
think
lot of wife swappers like Disney.
not enough to fill the park.
Sure. I'm just saying, why does the theme park need a sexual behavior day? Why, we don't have a black day. We don't have a Hispanic day at Disneyland. Why do we need a day devoted to homosexual behavior? It doesn't make any sense.
You love to equate gayness with primarily the sexual behavior.
Isn't that funny that I do that? Don't you think that's illogical of me?
Well, it's implying that it's kind of a choice, and you.
No,
said
I'm just saying, what is it that defines homosexuality? Sex with your own sex
being attracted to the.
and having sex with it. So why shouldn't I do that?
But it's not a choice, and if 30,000 black people decided to
That would be against the rules of the theme park. According to the rules of Disneyland, you're not allowed to have meetings of groups. If I tried to have a Democrat day at Disneyland, they'd shut it down. Security would come and say, sorry, we don't have that here. So why do they
But
wait?
if you let it loose on the grapevine that, if you're Democrat and you like hanging out with other
No,
Democrats.
they would shut it down. They would shut it down.
How could they shut it down?
They would harass you. The security would come up and say, look, we don't make our park available to political movements, let alone sexual movements.
Well, it's not like when you say a Democrat day would be shut down,
Well, they have, believe me, Rick, I work there. They've got their ways of shutting down what they want to shut down. It's not that complicated.
But I mean, but if 30,000 Democrats showed up, and everybody was wearing like Democrat T-shirts,
Yeah, they would start shutting it down at the gate. There would be an alert going to the gates where they'd say, listen, there's some sort of rally going on here. We want you to tell people to go home, take that shirt off, and come back. You're not allowed in. We're not allowed to let 10,000 people into Disneyland saying we're voting for Bernie Sanders.
that's weird.
But it's not weird. They don't want their park used for political rallies, and I don't blame them.
Well, it's not a rally if a bunch of people with the same interests show up, as long as they're not rallying, they're just showing up in a social context.
Well, but
When
but
gay
that's-
people, they're not having a gay rally at Disneyland. It's just a bunch of gay people who've decided this is the day, and yeah, Disney's
Okay,
aware of it.
I actually read an article by one of the founders of Gay Day, and he said, we are doing this as a political statement. This is a statement. We're trying to show that we're a powerful movement, and we want people to see how many of us there are, and that we can have a show of strength.
Okay, fine. All right, I'll grant you some aspects of that argument.
Since we're talking about groups, big groups, and movements, what did you guys think about the rally of the students over the weekend?
This weekend was 500,000 students. Was that nationwide, or was that a bunch of students nationwide rallied against against a lack of gun control. It wasn't exactly a rally against guns. It was just a rally against not being able to come up with some seemingly reasonable gun control measures. And that there's kind of a feeling about guns that is, I feel, shared by a majority of Americans, which is that there are a lot of people in America.
Stop talking with your hand when I'm
Sorry,
panning your
sorry.
hand, for God's sake.
All right, a lot of people in America who own guns. The vast majority of these people are cool. What's not cool is that the NRA shuts down any kind of 99% of any attempted legislation to there are some reasonable things that could be done by way of gun control. And these things may not be sufficient. But like making sure that everybody buying a gun is subject to a background check. And that may not be sufficient, and we may need to look at mental health issues, or since it's psychos who tend to shoot a bunch of people all at once. But having universal background checks seems like a reasonable thing, and it doesn't seem reasonable that the NRA can shut down any efforts in that direction. And so rallying for the idea of the legislative possibility of, reasonable measures regarding guns, which is not taking people's guns away. It seems like it makes sense, and it seems like it is shared by the vast majority of Americans, both conservatives and liberals, and both gun owners and people who don't own guns.
I don't really care if they do background checks on people with guns to make sure that they don't have mental illness, to make sure that they haven't committed felonies. And the reason I don't really care is because they already have that. And if you didn't know that, it's it's the media's fault for keeping that a secret from you.
Background checks you're talking about?
They have all kinds of background checks.
Yeah, but if you buy at a gun show, that's...
Do you know why they allow people to buy things at a gun show? because both people have already had background checks. That's how they got the guns. So if you show up at a show and you are authorized to sell 100 guns, and the guy next to you is allowed to sell 100 guns,
Yeah, but what about the
then
buyer?
then you can trade guns with one another. That's
Yeah,
what
but
those
what
rules
about the
are
people
for.
who buy tickets and show they're not gun
The-
traders?
no,
They're gun.
but that's
buy-
not what's happening. That's not what the gun That's not what the gun show loophole is for. The gun show loophole is for people that already have guns to sell to each other. And the media keeps that a secret because they want to make you think that Republicans want your children to die. And the media has got this brilliant plan. They didn't work by turning the races against each other. They didn't work by trying to convince people that white people wanted black people to be shot by cops. They didn't win by.
Now, people have been talking about the gun show loophole forever.
No, right, because you Democrats are looking for an issue, and you think you've found one. You think you can get in the 2018 election. You think you've got this thing where you can convince people that Republicans want your children
I don't
shot.
know. I don't know if what you're saying is 100% true, if it's some kind of cherry pick thing.
Makes sense, though,
Well, let's
doesn't
talk about. So I'll grant you that, though I don't think it's
You know-
exactly right.
But do you guys know who has the most stringent
Watch out.
gun control?
The dog is.
Illinois, where the most people are shot by guns.
All right, hold on, I
It's
gotta
had
unhook
no
the dog.
effect whatsoever.
right, dog. Look,
You're talking over my rebuttal of you. The Chicago has the most stringent gun laws, and they're killing more people in Chicago. They're killing thousands of people in Chicago every year. The gun control laws have been worthless.
because people well, one reason is people bring in guns from outside of Chicago. There's no, people.
Oh,
can-
okay, so we're just going to have no guns anywhere.
No, come on, nobody is saying that.
But it basically, you can't, the reason those kids were killed is because the FBI didn't do their job,
Yeah,
the authorities didn't do their job, the teachers didn't do their job, the mental health program didn't do their job, everything broke down.
Yeah.
Everyone was incompetent, and as a result, kids got killed, has nothing to do with the NRA. You're being whipped into a frenzy.
So your argument
You're
is-
being whipped into a frenzy by your media because you're a zombie.
Yeah, but so because
Hey, Rick.
no,
the
because
NRA
a bunch of
the
because a
NRA
bunch of
is
people
your enemy.
screwed up. Well, the NRA doesn't want.
You better vote Democrat. They'll save you from the NRA.
All right. In 1977, the NRA went from being a gun safety organization to being an anti-legislation, gun control legislation organization, and there's some legislation that is reasonable. Now, maybe the gun show loophole thing isn't one of those things, but that the NRA can shut down safety technology like gun locks.
I don't think they've actually developed that so it works yet.
Yeah.
Does that work like the self-driving car?
Oh, because one person got run over. And,
Yeah. I don't think the thing where you put your thumbprint on and your gun works. I don't
Where
think
it
they
works
have,
for you.
I don't think they have that yet.
No, that's the deal. Is
Stop
that-
moving your hand.
Sorry, a company.
It's like a nightmare. He wins the argument by doing that. He's trying to drive me crazy. It's a distraction.
I love that. I'll just. All right. No, a major company. I don't know if it was Smith and Wesson, but a company of the size of Smith and Wesson, roughly 10 years ago, tried to roll out ID technology on guns, where you could buy. They were trying to test selling guns that only fired for the owner. And it seemed to be pretty effective technology. And I'm sure it would be more effective now, 10 years later, but when NRA finds out about that and they organize boycotts of the company, and the company's stock starts dropping and their sales start dropping, and they're kind of pressured into not going ahead with this technology. That seems like an unreasonable, and you could say, well, the NRA was using the power of market forces rather than, legislative, anti-legislative.
That's not what I would say. What I would say is, you go for it, but you're not going to save one kid's life. That's not what's killing our kids.
All right, what about figuring out what's killing our kids?
I know what's killing our kids.
Hold on. Let me make my point.
Don't move your hand.
The CDC being prohibited by law from having funds to research, and the CDC is a government thing, so it's public funds or nothing, to research actual instances of gun-related injuries and death.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
They research constantly.
They're
they've got
prohibited
research on
by
it.
law
No,
to develop statistics.
that's not true.
So we need to Google it. because
I can assure you. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what is not reported. This is the best kept secret ever, and I'm glad I brought it up. Do you know that they estimate that 1 million people a year are saved by brandishing a gun at an attacker?
Who's they?
Those people that are researching this.
Who's researching it? Is
There-
this the
we
CDC
can,
or
no,
is this?
we can find it on the internet. There are more people saved by brandishing a weapon than people shot by guns because they were bad guys.
Who's doing the study?
I'm sure it was done by evil people, Rick, that you could never trust.
It was done by pro-gun people.
No, it's done by. Listen, Rick, I'll tell you what. Just for once, don't interrupt me. That's one. But just for another thing, use your magnificent, highest IQ brain. How many people in the United States do you think get saved by brandishing a weapon when they're threatened? You don't have to have a number, but do you think there'd be a lot? Like I know,
Depends on how much is a lot.
I know right now.
I don't think it's a million.
In my own life.
No, wait.
In my own life,
I don't think it's a million
I know
people a year.
3 people. I alone, 4. I know 4 people that saved their lives by brandishing a weapon, by brandishing a gun. 4 people. That's just me. If I know 4 people,
You live in the ghetto.
No. I know people just my whole life. People out in the desert, people in their homes in rich parts of town, people in the ghetto, people on vacation. That's just me alone. I know 4 people that saved their own life by brandishing a gun. I'll bet if you think hard and our director Camille thinks hard, you'll be able to come up with people. So my point is this. No, wait, I know 5 people. Now that I think about it, I know 5 people. In other words, the gun is being used for defense. Yes, it's being used by bad guys, and it's also being used by good guys so that they won't be at the mercy of bad guys.
I can think of 0 people.
Yeah, you haven't been around.
What? I've been around more than you. You're in
Camille?
the freaking studio all day.
Camille, have you met anybody in your life that saved their life by brandishing a gun?
I have.
How many?
Probably about, it comes to mind like 3 or 4 people.
Okay. I don't think it's 1 million people a year.
Well, what if it was 1 million people every 5 years?
I mean, that's a good rate. That doesn't mean you can't do anything about guns. And it doesn't mean you should prohibit the CDC from being funded to study gun violence. But
I don't really care if they study.
actually, I think in the budget that Trump just signed, it gets rid of that prohibition that's been in place for more than a decade.
Yeah, okay, who cares?
Well, I do. If the NRA is exerting lobbying pressure that says that the Centers for Disease Control can't study this source of injury and death, then that's a bullshit thing.
Okay, I first of all, I don't accept your premise.
But look it up. We'll look it up on break.
I believe there have been countless studies.
Well, there's a specific. You know about this specific.
No, I
thing.
don't actually.
We'll Google
my
it.
whole life I've been hearing about studies of gun violence. It like that anybody out there that Harvard can't do a study on gun violence would be a big surprise.
The major government branch dealing in epidemiology and sources of illness and injury and death
Here's the thing.
can't study a major source.
The FBI has statistics on gun violence. I've read them myself. I don't remember them, but I remember
let's
gun
take a
violence.
break. Let's go
No,
read the rule.
But Rick, I don't even care. It's irrelevant to me. I don't need it to be studied anymore. I'm smarter than them. I'm smarter than the people doing the studies, and
You're
so
not
are you.
an epidemiologist.
No. I'm a human being. And I can tell you, I need a gun to protect my family.
Do you have a gun?
None of your business.
You don't have a gun. You don't have a frickin' gun.
It's none of your business, first of all. Secondly, I need a gun to protect my family. Third, if people have committed a felony, or they're mentally they're psychotic, then they shouldn't be allowed to have a gun. But if they're a little depressed or neurotic, or they've seen a psychologist in their life, maybe they should be allowed to have one. I mean, a depressed person might kill themselves.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you can't say, if you say that because you've seen a psychologist you can't have a gun, that's half the country. That's just one more way of taking guns out of the hands of Americans. So you have to be very careful with this legislation.
Yeah, but you can study, and I just saw these statistics earlier today on the rate of success of suicide attempts is highest when it's done with a gun.
Okay.
82.5% of attempted suicides with guns succeed.
Let me ask you a question.
But hold on. And imagine the 17.5% that don't succeed in making the person dead. I can imagine that a healthy chunk of those people are missing healthy chunks of their brains after they try it. Also, the statistics that I read today say that 9 out of 10 people attempting suicide and failing don't attempt it again, because they end up, it's a cry for help, they get help, and just because somebody is momentarily suicidal doesn't mean that they are essentially suicidal and are just going to try to keep on trying to kill themselves until they do.
Okay, Rick.
Guns make it easy.
Rick,
Yeah.
let me get this straight. Are you telling me that you read forbidden statistics on gun violence?
These statistics didn't come from the CDC.
Ah, I see. You managed to find statistics, though. I commend you because, the NRA made those illegal.
The NRA just pushed to make it hard for the CDC to do studies.
But you did manage to find some statistics. It was okay, wasn't it?
No.
Listen, Rick. You come in here all agitated because the CDC didn't get to find statistics.
Wait, no.
Didn't get funded for statistics. And then you tell me
Hold on.
that it took you 1 minute to find statistics on gun violence.
It's our job.
How dare you? How dare you strike me? You are being manipulated by the media.
It's our job to be agitated. This is the freaking show.
You're being manipulated by the media. They're getting you to think that you can't find statistics, and you're pissed off about it, and it turns out you can find statistics, but you're still mad because of the CDC. You're being manipulated by the media.
I don't want the NRA to tell the government what they can study and what they can't study.
Okay, and I don't want the media to tell you to be all upset about something you don't really need to be upset about.
It's crazy that the the federal agency in charge of learning about what kills and injures and makes Americans sick is prohibited from studying this major cause.
Wait a minute. The CDC is the Center for Disease Control.
Oh, so you're saying that since being dead from a gun isn't a disease, then it's not under their purview?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a bullshit argument.
What do you mean it's a bullshit argument? I don't want the center that studies heart attacks and strokes and HIV to be researching accidents with guns. That's a crime statistic.
I bet you they study every other. I bet you they study people getting hit by lightning and falling off ladders.
I don't know about that.
And
it's
car wrecks.
Wait, I don't know that. It's the Center for Disease Control, isn't it, Rick?
They're epidemiologists, which means I bet you
an epidemic is a disease, Rick.
So anyway, when we take
You've
a break,
been manipulated twice in one conversation.
When we
First,
take a
you
break,
told me you couldn't find statistics. Then you told me
All
the
right,
government
so
or
we're gonna-
agency that's supposed to get the statistics is really supposed to be studying disease.
All right.
Thank you, Rick. Two manipulations
we're
by the
gonna
media.
take a break. We're gonna
I don't care. I don't care. I give it to you. You go right ahead. Get every agency to study gun violence.
Well, who else is-
let's have the EPA study them. Let's have the schools study. Let's do nothing but study gun violence. That's what I want. I want to know who's killing who and why and how.
No.
I need a government organization to tell me whether I need a gun to protect my family. No! I say no.
I think it's dumb to have an agency that studies Americans' mortality and causes thereof, able to study everything except mortality associated with guns.
What about people that have a refrigerator full of them?
They study
What if
that.
a refrigerator falls on
Yeah, but they
somebody?
study that.
Who studies that?
No, they did studies on on refrigerators used to be more dangerous than they are because kids would go play in them and the seal would seal them in and they'd suffocate. So now,
So we can't let people have refrigerators.
no, but they made it so so a kid can get out of a refrigerator. Or so there's not a perfect vacuum or something, but they fixed refrigerators. So the kid playing in the junkyard, I think they also fixed frickin' car trunks so you can get out of the trunk if somebody throws you in a car trunk. And if they're going to do that, I mean, how many people get thrown in a car trunk in a year and suffer? You know, I mean, compared to gun. Anyway,
Do you know any people have been thrown?
it's less than the people who suffer from gun violence.
You know, your dog is terrified of me right now. It took me hours for the people that came. It took me hours to coax this shy little dog into loving me and letting me 6 feet near it. Now it's terrified of me. The poor little thing is traumatized.
All right, so PTSD.
This is all because of the Democrats.
All right, so let's break. Let's look at the CDC, even though you don't want to, and then we'll come back.
Fine.
All right, doggy. How are you doing here tonight?